for example, their child has come home from school and asked the parent if he's gay or if she is lesbian because they love their best friends. Transgender is coming up in these phone calls I get. We clearly already have teachers who are happy to steal our role as parents and to expose young children to a doctrine that destroys. Kids are confused, and parents want to know how they can protect their children from this insane gender agenda. Unfortunately, our government is not here to help. The U.S. Department of Education has proposed new Title IX rules which destroy parental rights in America. The Biden administration and DOE have unconstitutionally added the word gender to our laws in an attempt to force unscientific gender propaganda on our nation's students. It is quite disconcerting to me that we're talking about education, but the word sex or sexual shows up in this rulemaking 2,985 times, talking about education. The word regulation shows up 1,301 times in this rule. Sexual orientation 77 times, and gender identity 112. Our government is creating a problem by exposing children to gender and sexual propaganda at a young age, and then they force our public schools to follow 701 pages of new regulations in education, regulations that strip away our parental rights. U.S. public education was originally intended to help a child reach his full potential and become a responsible citizen who loves his country. Education was not given the right to indoctrinate our children with social and harmful ideologies. As education continues to promote a social agenda, instead of teaching factual knowledge, taxpayers and parents have watched the decline in U.S. educational outcomes. One of the most egregious acts of the proposed rules is to force schools to promote anti-Christian ideas about sex and gender to children of every age. Most young children do not think about these issues. They just don't. They're not thinking about this stuff. Finding these throwing these ideas onto young children is harmful to them. It's destructive to their young minds. Parents have a right to protect their children from these concepts, and they, and only they, decide when their child is ready to learn these things. Until very recently, gender confusion was considered a mental health issue, and parents were advised to practice watchful waiting. Almost all gender-confused children embraced their birth sex as they got older. Those who were struggling because of abuse were actually able to get help and some healing. Under the proposed rules now, we can ask no questions. Free speech is muzzled when parents and children cannot express their own truth, their religious beliefs, what they know to be true in their life, in their school. They are forced instead to acquiesce to another's, and theirs is silent, the other's is promoted. The government will require everyone to agree that gender confusion is perfectly normal and their destructive solutions are good. Truly, the emperor has no clothes. When our government forces a child to use another child's self-declared pronouns, they are clearly acting hostile to religion, which has been declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in Kennedy versus Bremerton. Christians and other Americans know God created men and women uniquely with unchangeable XX and XY chromosomes. They have one or the other. Yet our government wants to force our children to believe they're the government's religion of theology. This is establishment of religion in our schools, and parents and our beloved Constitution are having none of that. Another reason we are alarmed is the idea that a child can be counseled without parental permission to choose their gender. That is just a hard stop and a hard no from parents across this country. To President Biden and the Department of Education, we say, you may not indoctrinate our children in gender theology. You may not sexualize our children. You may not provide health care without our express permission. You may not collect our children's personal data. You may not invade our children's privacy in bathrooms and locker rooms. You may not change the English language to accept ridiculous pronouns. You may not promote unhealthy behavior in our schools. We do give you permission to teach our children to read, to write, to do math, to study scientific ideas, and learn real history. You must equip them to launch into adulthood with the ability to think for themselves and become productive citizens. If the Department of Education is seeking to destroy public education and increase the mass exodus from the institution, they are on the right track. If their goal is to truly educate our children, they must listen to parents and abandon this Title IX rewrite, which has nothing to offer actual education. Thank you.